You're right. Certainly, the market's going to tell us what we're going to build. Both from a development standpoint as well as infrastructure. I'll at least tell you why I'm here tonight.
Okay,
Because
yeah, I'd like to hear that.
why I'm here tonight is to identify in the definition in the MFA of regional improvement. Kendall Parkway is not a regional improvement. Boyd Lake is not a regional improvement. And so if though regional with a big R, which allows for different funding mechanisms, if development is going to move in that direction and develop here and then along here, what our desire would be from the Metro District is to have those be defined as regional improvements, very much like this interchange was, in the projects that were here, and then it allows for the development to really define that. But right now, we have at least the top 2 or 3 things that we think will come forward in the next 5 years that are not defined as regional improvements in the MFA. So if this, speaking very candidly, if this is not defined as a regional, it's still going to be built in the next 2 to 3 years because we're going to do it as part of this project, and we'll do it out of existing resources. If you want to take a technical view of it, then I would say we're not going to name it that, and it's going to get built either way. This one I would view differently, from here all the way to here, and then the piece from here to here would be a different view from me.
So looking at that, Boyd Lake Avenue, especially if the residential going on, it's got to be done like Jay said. So if it's a regional improvement and benefits the whole project, unless I'm missing
To all the way to the roundabout, I can't think of what that road is.
Road 30 or 71st Street.
So I mean, that's essentially all residential with some industrial on the airport side. So I don't disagree with you in terms of what you said. I think that the position in front of us, at least right now, is that this ground in the next 4 years plus a pretty significant school and the traffic that goes with that is going to change that traffic dynamic very quickly.
So the question that you're talking about, and then you say you may have a disagreement, is whether that be considered a regional improvement or not, and whether that should be part of the regional improvement financing package. Is that what the discussion was, or you say you disagreed with Jay a little?
It wasn't fair for me to say that we had a disagreement. I mean, I'm offering a technical opinion, and he's looking at it from his perspective.
Okay.
I think you're right, Dave. I don't think that it fits into, from a technical perspective, into what they would put in the regional as it was defined 10 years ago. But a lot of what we're doing here is looking at, that was 2004. We're talking about 2014 and 2015 development, 2016 development that we know is on the horizon immediately. Whether it fits that technical definition, I'm not here to define that. I'm here to say that's what is going to happen, and it would be our desire to have that be defined as a regional for that reason.
So again, what's the benefit to making it regional? Your funding is different, and to follow up on that, John, what's the pros and cons to the city if we designate it regional or not? I mean, it sounds like from the developer standpoint, if it's regional, he has a different sort of fund, or different source of funds.
Well,
What's the pros and cons of the city?
I think until the regional fund starts getting funded, it probably doesn't make any difference. But once that happens, then there's another pot of money that is then in control by Laura, but it is specifically designated for to be spent on regional improvements that the city and the Metro District agree on should be built, and this money used for that purpose. So once we get to that point where we have funds in the regional fund, then if the city decides this is something we want to eventually provide incentive to get built because we've got money here to pay for it, that makes it more likely that that regional improvement will be built. So I think in a sense you are trying to decide, could there be new regional improvements up here that you want to at least provide that incentive if that incentive finally materializes with that fund being funded. So, and I guess the thought is that the underpass probably is one of those, sounds like not so sure about agreement about Boyd Lake Road, but if we want to have those funds available in the future, since we don't know when the underpass might be built for 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 Kendall Parkway, might be a good time to amend the agreement to provide that mechanism when it occurs.
And Jay brought up a good point relative to, 10 years ago.
How you doing?
Well, that is the question, right? So we measure that, and I, in my private role as a general manager of Centerra, I measure that in really three different ways. That's job creation, the building of regional improvements, and then the revenue side. So in the job creation side, I think we've done, a very good job. Although the MFA didn't identify a number and a target, we have over 10,000 people that wake up every day that either live or work at Centerra today. And when this agreement was put in place, it was about 1,200. When you look at the regional improvement side, I guess in short order, we've done what we said we were going to do, and we've continued to do that in terms of building the regional improvements and building out the infrastructure that we promised the community that we would do. And then the third one is really the financial performance. And then I break that financial performance down into a few different categories: sales tax, and then property tax, and then tax increment. The tax increment as well as the property tax have exceeded expectations. The sales tax is short on expectations based on, in essence, what happened through the recession. When you aggregate those three, we are within I should have it in front of me, a percentage or a percentage and a half under where we said we would be a decade ago. So when you couple that in with the recession, we feel pretty good about that. When I look at the sales tax, build it when there's a need for it. A major use here or on the former dog track site could certainly trigger that. A use over here could trigger that. A use up here could trigger a portion of this. We've sold a piece of ground in this area to a self-storage group, and when they get ready to go, we have some obligations to build a portion of this. So when you look at it from that perspective, we're not going to build it until they're ready to go. So each time a new commercial project comes online, it creates more assessed valuation, creates more bonding capacity, which then allows us to build the road. And that's what we've done today. We're not going to do it in any different form because it'd be irresponsible to do that.
Public. And then there are additional improvements that are not defined, but that can be added based on agreement between the city and the service district.
Could you define the lifestyle center?
The Lifestyle Center is the area out there where you have Macy's and Dick's Sporting Goods and the promenade shops, that whole area. Yeah. I think when the document was put together, the name hadn't been determined yet. So the regional improvements that were included in the document, and originally there were 5. The first one was improvements at I-25 and Crossroads, but it didn't include the full final improvements, including the reconstruction of the bridges on I-25. The interim improvements at I-25 and US 34.
Actually, on the I-25 Crossroads Boulevard, that was the one that we originally intended to be final. They were final construction.
Okay,
Is your microphone on, John?
sorry.
On the I-25 and Crossroads Boulevard interchange improvements, they were intended to be the final improvements. And as you know, since then, there have been something like interim improvements with the roundabouts put in, but originally it was intended to be the final improvements for that interchange.
But again, it was anticipated that it would be a portion of the cost of the final construction. So, County Road 5 and Centerra Parkway, or County Road 5 is Centerra Parkway, and US 34, which is intended to be a grade separated interchange. And then County Road 3E, which is where Kendall Parkway will connect into Highway 34, and it was originally referred to as Cordova Pass in the document. So if you're looking at the documents, if you're really looking for some light reading some night, you'll see Cordova Pass. And that is actually, it comes in where the rehab hospital is on the south side of the road in the 2534 development. So that road will extend up and hook into and go along the UP railroad tracks and connect into the piece that's already constructed west of Centera Parkway that goes along the north side of the promenade shops. And then the money towards the final improvements at I-25 and US 34. Now, in the EIS, that's shown as about $425 million improvement. So it's quite a large project. And then there was a clause that allowed for any and all other public improvements which the city, the LURA, and the service district all agree to classify as regional improvements. And the note below says that the extension of Centera Parkway was added later in the first amendment, and but it wasn't really allowed to be credited until the interim improvements at I-25 and US 34 were completed, and the interim improvements at I-25 and Crossroads were completed. So the document is fairly complex. So you guys, is everybody with me so far? All right. The local improvements, and I just did some highlights because there's intersections and structures improved in this, but basically broken down between the east side I-25, Centera Parkway, Clydesdale Parkway, and Kendall Parkway that we talked about from US 34 to I-25. And then some turn lanes on US 34, the triple lefts that we have now in the right turn lanes. And then on west of I-25, Boyd Lake Avenue from US 34 to the canal, Boyd Lake Avenue from then Plum Creek, which is on the north side of the McStain development that's out there, up to 37th Street, which is where Kendall Parkway will come into Boyd Lake Avenue. And then 29th Street, which goes along the north side of where the